Hi everyone, my name is George Mormasato, and I want to demo GridWhale, which is a development platform for creating websites. Now the cool thing about GridWhale is that it's an integrated platform, so the user interface, the storage, and the business logic all are in one program. Rather than splitting things between a front-end code and back-end code, GridWhale just does it all in one. I'm going to show a simple little program, which is just a CRUD program, something that lets you create, read, update, and delete records in a database. This is a pretty standard program. But the cool thing about GridWhale is that it's all done in just 65 lines of code. Let me just show you how it works. Here, this is just a normal browser. I'm just running the application. It's all in a normal browser. I can create a new record. I'm just going to type in my name here, an age maybe. That's not my real age, of course. Another one here. And I can edit these, I can delete these. I'm just going to delete that one. So basically just a full-fledged website, a full-fledged database. And this is a persistent shared system. So I'm going to go open a different browser, and here it is, basically the exact same data, just in a different browser. This browser could be on another part of the world. It doesn't matter. It's all just, it's just a website. If I create something here, it just gets added, and you can see that this automatically updates. So you can see that this is a full-blown shared multi-user database with, all the UI just projected in a browser. Like I said, though, it's only 65 lines of code. That's what's so cool about GridWhale, that you can do some relatively sophisticated apps with very little code. I'm just going to show you basically step by step how we built this app, and it's really not that hard. Let's start with just the simplest possible thing, just the storage. I've defined over here a schema for the record, and I've got the fields here. I've got an ID, which is a string. I've got a name. I've got age, and I've got a data type here. I've got labels and some UI things. We'll skip that because we're not really going to do the UI yet. All we're doing here is defining the record, and then in this line of code, all I'm doing is basically creating the table using that record as a schema. I give it a name. This is where it's going to get stored in the global database for this program. That's specific to this program. Here's my record, is the same as the schema, so this is how it knows what fields to create in the database. I give it some options like where to store it. In this case, it's going to store it in the built-in PostgreSQL database that GridWhale comes with. But of course, there are going to be other options. But you can store it. There's other systems that will have different performance characteristics and different cost characteristics. So you have those options. But again, all integrated, so it's very simple to do with just a few lines of code. Next, I'm just, this is the table that got created in this line, table DS. I'm just going to insert, and I'm going to insert a row. So here are the fields. I'm just going to come up with an ID, George, whatever. And then down here, I'm just going to print it. So I've created it, I've inserted it, and I'm just going to print it. I run it, and sure enough, exactly what you would expect. Here's the table, and it just works. So this little bit of code is enough to do all the storage. Now, of course, let's do a little bit of UI. This is the beginning here is exactly the same. I've just defined the record. I've opened the table. I've inserted a record. But the only other thing I'm doing here is a little bit of user interface. Here I've created a table control. With the UI from the UI library, I just create a table. I connect the table. Here's table control.data. I connect it to the database table that I created earlier, and that's it. Then I show it in the user interface. I run the event loop. That's it. When I run it, now I've got basically a user interface. Here's the record that I created, and it's just a fully functioning web app. The last thing to do is hook up some commands. So in this bit of code, this program, all I'm doing now, there's some additional code I'm adding here to add a button up here in kind of the command bar that lets you do something. And in this case, it's going to be a create button. Here's the event that gets called whenever the create button gets pushed, on action. I'm going to bring up a dialog box that takes the exact same schema, the my record, and then I'm going to assign it. I'm going to create a unique record using the data the data set has a function for creating a unique ID every time, and then I'm just formatting it a little bit, but that's about it. And then inserting it. Then here's the insert. So the dialog box lets me enter some data into this structure, and then I insert that structure into the table. That's it. And once it's inserted, then everything else just kind of works. The table control will get notified that there's a new entry in the table, and the table control will update automatically. So if I do a create, I do George, and sure enough, it just gets added. So this, is a full-blown app with just a little bits of code. The final app that I created here just adds some extra buttons. It's got an edit button, and it's got a delete button. So it just adds some extra code to do those operations. But you can see how all the pieces fit together, and it's just not very much code. And the way the reason this is not very much code, the reason it kind of all works together is because the storage system, where you define the schema, is integrated with the user interface and the database. So, I define the schema here, and that's enough for me to create the appropriate table in some database. And because of these properties over here, things like how to what the label should be. Here's what the label should be for these fields. Here's how the UI should be rendered on the dialog box. Editable versus read only. The UI and the dialog box code looks at that to figure out how to display the dialog box. That's why you get when I run this and I edit this, you can see that here the ID is read only, but everything else is not. It's all editable. So that's to me the cool thing about GridWhale is that integration between the user interface and the storage and the business logic. I mean, this is real code, so I can do whatever I want. Any kind of custom logic I want to do in terms of creating or deleting records, I can just do all in here. So even though it's very simple, it's also very, very powerful. You can do whatever you want just as long as you just write some code. So to me, that's the magic of GridWhale. It's an integrated system that makes it really easy to do these things, but because it's real code, it's very, very powerful. Well, that's it. Thank you very much.